tell, then you see the road. I'm out to my soul into the size. Whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the 11th part of, What If BEN10 Meets the Boys? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of fan62 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Outside the door. Deep and A-Train are there waiting for Homelander, who walks out and says, "You two keep an eye on him until I get back." The two nod and Homelander walks to where they've been keeping an old coworker. As A-Train was about to go in, Deep stopped him. "Hey, mind if I take a crack at Home alone?" he requests. "You think you can get something out of him?" A-Train asks, slightly amused. Even after Homelander walked out without a deal. "Well, all of you guys have a lot more bad BLD, so, Deep reasons. And we just had that one fight before today. Where he hooped your ass." A-Train reminded. "Did you beat him?" Deep asks, and the lack of a response is all he needs. "Come on, what do we have to lose by just letting me talk to him?" A-Train shrugs and holds his hands up in surrender. "Go ahead, man." He agrees and Deep walks in. Deep walked into the room Ben was locked in and walked up to the bars separating them. "Hello fishy, shouldn't you be saving a dolphin or a whale, maybe a squid?" Deep sighs and says. "Look kid, I know it's been a rough few hours, but I think I can help you out." "Really?" Ben asks with skepticism. Deep nods and replies. "Oh yeah, you see the thing is, I'm the unofficial number 2 of the 7. He says, using the same line that he used on Starlight. Ben smiles with amusement and responds. "So you were the second person to join?" Deep stutters as replies. "What? No, that was Mr. Marathon." "Wait." He tries to remember the order each person was brought it. "What I mean is, I'm basically second in command, Homelander's right-hand guy. Now you help me out a little, I help you." "What kind of help?" Ben asks. "How about some info on that watch of yours?" Deep suggests, feeling like he's getting somewhere. Ben looked at the clasps covering the omnitrix and looked like he was thinking hard. "I could tell you who made it." Deep smiled. "Now we're talking," he says. Minutes later. Deep steps out of the room and was met by A-Train. "How'd it go?" the speedster asks. "I know who made his watch," Deep answers with excitement. A-Train looks at him, dumbfounded by this. "B. Why would he tell you?" "'Cause unlike you, I'm great with kids," Deep replies as he held up the paper. "I'm gonna go see Edgar and Homelander." He went to move but A-Train stopped him. "What's the F name?" A-Train wondered. "A German guy named Imawina." Deep answers, reading the paper. A-Train blinked, then just stared at him, before chuckling and taking out his phone. "What?" Deep asks, as A-Train turns on the camera and starts recording. "Imawina," A-Train repeats. "Yeah." Deep answers in slight confusion. "Read it again." A-Train requested. "Imawina," not getting it. Deep tells him, still not getting it. A-Train struggles to say his next words through his laughs. "Read it fast." "Imawina," Deep said. Then there was a moment of silence. "Imawina," he says. A-Train bends forward laughing. "Man, I needed that," he says as he takes the paper and crumples it up and tossed it before heading in. As they do, Ben greets them. "Hey, the dweeb is back with lame train," he says cheerfully. "You tricked me," Deep tells him. "Wasn't that hard, dweeb?" Ben replies. Hey. The name is Deep. The aquatic soup reminds him. Ben shrugs. Yeah, that's what I said, the dweeb. The Deep. The 7-member again corrects. Ben, the dweeb. Deep, Deep. Ben, dweeb. Deep, Deep. Ben, Deep. Dweeb. Deep snapped. I'm the dweeb, damn it. He takes a few breaths and it dawns on him. Ben laughs. That's not funny, you little dash. He then notices A-Train was recording him on his phone. Seriously. A-Train smiles and replies with a thumbs up and. Keep going, man, you're doing great. Homelander. The 7 leader is talking to the medical examiner that looked over Translucent's remains when they were brought it. It's a simple question, where's his body? Homelander asked again. I'm sorry sir, I don't know where it is. The examiner told him. After he was brought in he was put in cold storage, then security took his remains elsewhere. He explains. They didn't tell me. Stillwell's orders. The 7 leader asks. Maybe. I don't know. I swear sir. Is the reply, and Homelander can tell. His heart rate is up, but not enough to warrant a lie. Plus he only started feeling that when he was being pressed, not when he walked in the room. Homelander nods and walks out. Presumably to find Stillwell. With Butcher. After finding out Kraken Island was a dead-end, Butcher sighed. Where's Kevin? He asks, instead. Who? Raynor questions. Butcher rolls his eyes. Sorry. Where's Chimera? The CN to the kid fought with those other soups. His name is Kevin. Aaron the son says. Aaron, quiet. Susan says. No, he's all right. Butcher says, then turns to the kid in question. Feels like it should be for a cartoon, don't it? What do you want with Kevin? Raynor asks, trying to get his attention. To get Ben out of Vought. Butcher answers, then looks to Grace. You remember him, the little tyke when we first met. He's the shifter. What do you want? Susan asks again. I want to know where Kevin is and how to get him out, so he can attack the CNTS at Vought to get Benji out. Butcher tells her. No F way. She says. Butcher then pulls out a gun and holds it to Grace's the daughter, head, who cries out briefly before squeezing her eyes shut. However, even though Raynor is worried for her children, she knows Butcher isn't gonna kill an innocent child. You and I both know that's not in your area. She tells him. You're right. Butcher acknowledges, setting the gun down. Figured I'd give you the easy way, before completely destroying your family. Raynor's eyes then began to widen. Susan, what's he talking about? Her husband Andrew asked. You see, a ways back, Butcher dragged out. Butcher, so help me dash, Susan tried to say, but was cut off. Your wife and I a few times when we used to work together. Butcher plainly tells him. Before we started working together again. You've been working with this lunatic? Andrew asked. Butcher looks at him curiously. That's your question? 'Cause I figured you'd ask how many times or what positions, or if we still were doing it. Butcher asked. I knew. Andrew told him, and Susan looked at her husband in surprise. I thought you didn't tell him. Butcher wonders. I didn't. She tells him. I could tell, it was after you came back from that extended work trip. Andrew explains, and looks his wife in the eye. My father was the same when he cheated on my mom. Never stopped him from doing it again, but I know you've never done it again. Why didn't you say something? Susan asks, knowing how hard it must have been to know she cheated and not say anything. It wasn't my secret to tell, I figured you'd tell me eventually. But then you didn't and started working less, working around your schedule. Andrew responds. I wanted to bring it up, but then the kids came along, you changed your job to be with them and me. I didn't want to punish you because of one mistake. One that you probably tell the therapist about. How did you know about my therapist? Susan asks, knowing she had been careful hiding it. Deborah told me. He said, mentioning the neighborhood gossiper. She goes to the same one, thought we were getting couples counseling, or you were gonna divorce me. There was a moment of silence, until Susan, with tears in her eyes, said, I am so sorry. Andrew just nods. Slow condescending clapping was then heard and they turned back to Butcher. F me, that was appealing. Leans forward on the table. This should be AF Lifetime movie, am I right? He chuckles then sighs. Was really hoping I wouldn't have to do this. He adds with some regret. And before Susan can ask, he takes his knife and stabs Andrew in the left shoulder. He then pulls it out, so blood starts leaking out. Both making Andrew cry out in pain. Don't forget the bomb on you seats. Butcher reminds Susan, who almost instinctively gets up. Put pressure on it to stop the bleed. Susan orders. He's gonna do it to his leg too. Butcher says before repeating the action on the left leg. Ah. Andrew screams as the knife is pushed into his left leg, then pulled out. What's next, should I go for a jugular? Butcher questions, then looks to the kids. You two probably wished your CNT of a father would shut up right? Then prepares to stab the neck. Well, you're about to get your wish. Just as he was about to. Passcode is 322921214112. Raynor says and Butcher halts his actions. He's in an underground black ops site outside the city, that was built to hold super individuals. The passcode is to get into the front door. Where? Butcher asks. It's disguised as AL's junkyard, some hidden bunker that was left over from the Cold War, and the power is connected to the cities to keep it operating. While also connected to suburban grids. She explains. Please help him. How do I get in? Butcher asks instead. The code is to get in through the front, there's no back. If you want to get in you gotta take the guard by surprise before he sounds the alarm. She explains. After that you get into an elevator that's in porta potty. Cliché I know, but I know it was made years ago. Guards are pretty tense and will check you through each reinforced door. What's his cell like, how can I get him out? Butcher asked, while wrapping Andrew's wounds. I have an access card, it's turn off that smoke stuff that keeps him from breaking out. But there's a camera so once you're inside it'll be minutes at most before they send people after you. She explains. There will be an alarm once the smoke totally shuts off, and once they see my card being used and me not there. I'll be F. He guesses as he finishes patching Andrew up. Don't worry, only need a few minutes. Then starts walking out the door. Butcher the bombs. Raynor reminds him. They'll only be active for another couple hours. Butcher says, before pulling up one of the family tablets and setting it on the kitchen counter. When the timer goes off you can get up. He informs setting it so they can see the countdown is less than hours away. Have a nice night, I'm sure you have quite a bit to discuss. He concludes before walking out and heading to AL's junkyard as fast as he could. With Ben. So when you're that velociraptor dude, how in the hell do you go that fast? A-Train asks, after a moment of silence. Wanting to know if he can increase his speed to remain the fastest. Ben thinks for a second. Velociraptor. Velocity. Velociraptor. XLR8 is still better, but I guess anything is better than A-Train. He responds. Whatever. So how do you run that fast? DRG. Power up. A-Train questions again. Ben shrugs. I just run, dude. He simply answers. Come on, you turn into the guy. A-Train points. You gotta know something. It's not like grew him in my basement. He's an alien somewhere in outer space, his kind probably can all run that fast. Without DRGS. Ben tells him, emphasizing the last part. I don't do DRGS. A-Train denies. Ben laughs. Just like I didn't kick yours like 10 times over. He reminds them. Just tell me how you that fast. A-Train demands to know. I don't know. Ben exclaims back. You can drive a car, but can you fix the engine if it breaks? He compares. He actually doesn't have a license. Deep speaks up. The young shapeshifter then looks baffled. Dude, you're like 50, how do you not have a license? Ben replies. Why get one? I can run anywhere I want to go and be there. A-Train suddenly disappears and reappears behind Deep, making him jump. Like that. I don't know. Ben states dumbly. Maybe so you don't run through a person. He points out, getting a serious expression on his face. That was an accident. A-Train replies after a moment. That you didn't own up to, and didn't feel sorry for, otherwise you'd be a guilty wreck. But you didn't even try to make it right. Huey told me you just kept on going, lied about robbers, and tried to buy his silence so you could still be famous and make money. Ben states. A real hero owns up to their mistake when do something wrong. I don't see you owning up to any SHT. A-Train shoots back. Ben's response was almost immediate. Only mistake I made, was not coming here sooner to save all the other people you guys hurt. Ben admits. 'Cause last I checked. Lifts his cuffed omnitrix hand. Nobody died on my watch. There was a moment of silence before someone spoke up. Wow, that was good. Deep commented, before taking out his phone. Mind if I use that? He asks, planning to use it either way. Ben doesn't reply, but A-Train does. Really, dude? That's your reaction? He asks. Deep shrugs and tells him. Hey, while some us are picking fights with mall cops, the rest of us are working. A-Train groaned. I told you, he was following me around. Ben smirks and says. What? I thought you guys loved signing autographs. A-Train. Pfft. In disgust, before adding. That as wasn't a fan. I wasn't even in costume, didn't recognize me. A-Train then recalls. It was after what was supposed to be the race. My costume was wrecked after the fight. Turns to Ben. Thanks a lot, by the way. You're welcome. Ben simply replies. So I dressed in regular clothes and went to the mall to get, I don't even remember anymore. And I see this F as mall cop following me around, like I'm gonna rob the place. Ben looks at him confused before asking. If you didn't steal anything or commit a crime, then why did he follow you? He wonders, not understanding. Maybe 'cause I'm black. A-Train simply explains. Ben just looks at him, still not getting the message. And he DRGS on, hoping the speedster will further elaborate. A-Train looks at him when Deep taps his shoulder. Sidebar. He says, and they walk off to the side. I don't think he knows. He whispers. A-Train just looks at him. Knows what? About racism and all that SHT. Deep explains. A-Train scuffs. Be please. I'm serious. Think about it. Deep requests. He's like what, 8 years old? I didn't know racism was a thing till I was like in high school. He compares. No way, he's not that stupid. A-Train tells him. This is a small room, with a bit of an echo, right? Ben reminds them, hearing everything they said. And are you talking about that stuff Martin Luther King stopped like years ago, the separate buses and drinking fountains? He guesses. It was a bit more than that. Deep tells him. It was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., A-Train. Educates him. And there were other people. Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, Thurgood Marshall. Any of these ringing a bell? Ben stares blankly before saying. One's last name is a letter. He questions, scratching his head. Seems weird. A-Train takes off his goggles and goes to the cell and asks. What does a white cop do when he pulls a black guy for speeding, the first ever stop? Does he give him a warning or write him a ticket? Then waits for his response. Ben just looks at him. This a test? He asks. What should he do? A-Train asks, reiterating the question. Ben shrugs. Give the dude a warning if it's his first stop, unless he's done it a lot before, then write him a ticket. A-Train just blankly stares at him. Is that wrong? No, it's right. A-Train confirms. But here, in the real world, a lot of cops use shitty excuses like that, and next minute a brother is getting arrested for not complying with an officer. While a white dude would probably at worst get a ticket. A-Train explains. So wait. Ben tells him. Just 'cause your skin is darker you get treated different here? He asks, straight up for clarification, wanting to make sure he heard what A-Train. Exactly. A-Train nods. Guessing you never see that in your perfect little universe or wherever the F you came from. He adds, putting his goggles back on, leaving Ben with his thoughts. After several moments something came to Ben's mind though. Wait, if you know this, then why haven't you done anything about it? Ben wonders. He then turns to Deep. I get him 'cause he's just the fish guy who's almost always useless. Hey. Deep replies, offended by that statement. But you. Ben gestures back to A-Train. You can literally run circles around the bad guys, so why don't you? He asks. This. A-Train gestures to the building they're in. I do anything without their say so and it backfires, then I can lose everything, man. He clarifies. The cars, houses, clothes. He lists. You're pathetic. Ben exclaims, interrupting him. You know money isn't everything. Only ones who say that, are the ones who have money. A-Train shoots back. Look here, slime ball. Ben said aggressively, while getting up and grabbing the bars as tight as he could. When I got the watch, my base was my grandpa's RV while on our summer road trip. You guys have a giant tower of people helping you. Turns around and gestures to the ceiling. That's fair. Deep agrees. And I didn't ask to be here, away from my home, my friends, my family. Ben continued, then turns to the soups. You guys just don't really care about helping anyone, unless it helps yourself. Tell me I'm wrong. He accuses. There's a tense silence. But before anyone else speaks, Homelander walks in with a smile on his face and keys in his hand. You say that's the keys to my heart, I'll barf on your tacky costume. Ben says, as Homelander goes up to the cage and unlocks the doors. Can I have this off too? Ben asks. No. Homelander denies. That's not how this works. We're going upstairs to talk. And what if I don't want to go upstairs? Ben questions, crossing his arms and raising an eyebrow. Got anything better to do? Homelander points. Fine, but don't touch me. Ben relents as he walks out, the others follow him, and they head for the elevators. When it opens, there's a nervous-looking 20-something intern or assistant, who gulps at the sight of the 7 and the shifter. Ben steps in but the others don't. Something wrong? He asks as Homelander stops the doors closing. Do you mind? Homelander says, requesting the assistant to get out. Of course. She says, but Ben also steps out as they step in. What? Homelander asks. Not going without her. I want a witness just in case you plan to secretly try and kill me. The assistant eyes widen, even more when Ben adds. Again. We're not gonna do that. Homelander says. Good, then she can join us the whole trip. Ben says, gesturing for her to go in. She hesitates while looking at Homelander, who nods. They step inside, and the five of them get cozy inside. What floor? Deep asks. Same as us. Ben answers, before she can. Whole trip, remember? He says, and Deep presses that after getting the go-ahead from Homelander. As they start going up, Ben speaks. I'm Ben, by the way. Anika. The girl nervously answers. So what's your job here? Ben wonders. Crime analytics. She says. So you figure out crimes and relay it to their idiot executives, that tell them when jump and go fetch. Ben jokes, though he's the only one laughing. Anika just prays for the elevator ride to be over fast. Does it pay well? Ben asks. Pay is good, everything is good. Anika answers, her heart beating rapidly. If I pay you double the hourly rate here, would you work for me? Ben asks. Anika doesn't answer, since they reached their floor, the top one. Ben and the 7 members begin to step out, but as the door closes, Ben stops it. Offer is on the table, and also take the rest of the day off, gonna break out soon and good chance it will be messy. He tells her as she stares at him with her jaw hanging. He then lets the door start to close before adding. Tell your coworkers. As Ben turns back to the others, they stare at him. What? He questions. You're never getting out of here. Homelander tells him, completely convinced he won't escape, break out or be set free. This is a fortress, your little friends can't help and you can't use your little toy, can you? Of course I'm gonna break out. Ben replies like it's obvious, and when Homelander continues to glare at him he adds. Dude, I broke out of alien spaceships, and blew one of them up in the process. He tells, then spins around to gesture to the building in general. This is just another building in planet Earth on the ground with human security and technology. He points out. Is that so? A new voice says, and they all turn to see Stan Edgar standing in the hallway. All Y executives and other workers pass by them. Perhaps you'd like to announce that to the company. He suggests opening a plastic case for an old cord phone that connects to an intercom to make announcements throughout the whole building. He's not gonna escape. Homelander tries to tell him. I was told he wasn't gonna be a problem. That was wrong. Edgar reminds him. I was told it was gonna be over quickly. That was wrong. I was told it wasn't gonna cost us much money. That was wrong. Wanna shoot for 4? The CEO adds, and Homelander relents with a sigh. Cool. Ben says as he goes to the phone. By the way, still not taking your offer. He reminds the CEO, but this catches the ears of Homelander, who puts it away for now. Scene cut. In the mailroom, several workers were doing their job when they heard the company intercom start. Following procedure, they stopped working. Attention stooges, dweebs and honest people working at this BEN10, but you probably know me as Shifter. Lame name FYI, I prefer to go by BEN10, but Shifter caught on and I had to protect my identity, which I don't need to anymore. During this the workers looked at each other in a shocked silence as to keep hearing what he had to say. But a million thoughts raced through their heads. Did he escape? Is he taking over? What's going on? One man is even taking out his phone to record the audio. Scene cut. In a floor dedicated to analyzing stocks, people also stopped to listen. Anyway, this is a special announcement you do not want to miss. Cause well, it's important because you might get hurt or die. People immediately started looking frightened or confused at each other. Scene cut. In a conference room, several lawyers were on each side of the table. They had been negotiating a deal when the announcement came on. Now they were silent as they listened. Yeah, I'm about to go into the 7 conference room thingy or whatever it's called. They're probably gonna try to interrogate me, but so far that has failed, so it's gonna fail again. 'Cause they have nothing to offer that I want except this company in ashes, with those ashes burned and shot off in a rocket into the sun. The lawyers looked to their partners confused. Scene cut. In marketing teams have been working on ideas to increase interest in bought merchandise. They too stopped. And I know most of you are just honest people, doing your jobs and trying to make a living, so I wanted to tell you that I'm gonna be breaking out soon, and wanted to give you a heads up cause I'm very certain it's gonna get messy. And pretty sure I'm gonna go through a few floors, and almost 50% sure this building is gonna collapse. They all look scared as hell, since they're in the building. Some even start to pack their things and walk out. Scene cut. In crime analytics, Anika just walked in when she heard the announcement begin. Now she, and everyone else are still. So it's probably a good idea that you guys leave. I already told my new friend Anika to tell other people to, cause it's definitely gonna get messy. All eyes in the crime analytics department turn to the woman I question. Who was frozen with a half-eaten almond joy. Scene cut. In a design department, focused on making art, logos, games and the such for merchandise work stops. Be it drawing, designing or painting. Where was I? Oh right. If you value your life and several of your limbs, I recommend you just leave. Cause the less people that are working, the less people will get hurt. Your life cannot be worth your paycheck. Especially if it's just minimum wage or less. An assistant who spent years in art school put down the ridiculous drinks he had to bring. And started leaving without telling his boss. Scene cut. In the lobby, workers and guests alike were staring up at the ceiling. Cause even if the building doesn't come down, I'm definitely gonna be going through floors. Hopefully I just bust out a window, but I can't control everything. I mean, my first breakout involved space, Mount Rushmore and an alien ship being blown to smithereens. Soon people, including all the visitors and several workers, started exiting the building. Some even running. Scene cut. Ben is talking on the phone. Sorry, I know this isn't the news you wanted, but it's what's happening, so. Anyway, take care, and I really no one gets hurt except for Homelander. I wouldn't mind a building falling on top of him. Oh, and make sure to check out my Instagram, TikTok, YouTube and all that. My friends put a lot of work into those. See you later. Hangs up. Ben then sees a bunch of executives and other higher-up workers peek their heads out of their offices or stop moving in the hall. You guys realize I can blow this floor up in like 3 seconds, right? You might wanna, gestures for them to leave, and several comply immediately. Homelander, who's been annoyed for a while now, just starts walking. Let's go. He orders. And the 5 head to the 7 meeting room, including Edgar. We got this, Stan. He tells him. I'd join in. The CEO replies. See up close how you fail this time. He adds as he walks ahead. 7 conference room. The only ones sitting are Maeve and Starlight. Stillwell and Ashley are standing off to the side, while another man in a suit with red hair and a beard was there too. Soon Ben and the others walk in. Oh cool, a reception committee. Ben says. Sorry, no autographs at this time. He then goes to the window. Nice view. Very cliché villain or evil rich dude. Take a seat. Make yourself comfortable. Homelander offers and pulls the seat next to his, translucent old one. Thanks. Ben says, then sits in Homelander's seat and leans back while kicking his feet up. I gotta say, this was more satisfying the other time I did it. No one said anything as many were staring at Homelander, who was glaring at Ben. That's my chair. He points out, thinking Ben will take the hint. I know. Ben answers, putting his hands behind his head and not looking at the leader of the 7. I sat here on purpose in case you couldn't tell. You okay? You seem slower than usual. Ben adds, trying to press his buttons. Homelander then orders. Get out of my chair. Ben looks at him and replies. Why don't you make me? With attitude. Homelander's eyes start to glow red. When you do that, does it clear sand and the disgusting eye boogers you have too? Ben asks, further poking the bear. Homelander's eyes only grow brighter and everyone just stares. Except for Ben. Dude, get it through you thick skull to your pea-sized brain. I'm not scared of you, he enunciates. I fought off giant robots, a crazy scientist who mutated animals and wanted to turn Washington, D.C. and Washington B.C., alien bounty hunters, rare animal hunters that were after a kraken, and a guy who controls bugs that almost caused a nuclear explosion. Ben lists off. What have you fought off, your fans? Homelander continues to glare at Ben, and thanks to his super hearing he can hear Ben's steady heartbeat. With the exception of Edgar, who never seems to react to anything, everyone else were racing. But this kid was pushing all his buttons and taunting him for no purpose other than his amusement, and was cool as a cucumber. Who is he? After several tense moments of silence, Homelander calmed himself down enough so that his heat vision wasn't on the brink of firing. Instead he turns to the unknown person in the room. Come and do your thing. He orders him. I'd like you to meet Projector. Homelander says, introducing the man. He's not big, but I'm sure you can guess what he does. Ben just swirls the chair from side to side and replies. Don't know, don't care. Stops and looks at Edgar. Look, if this is some torture to accept your deal, it's almost working. What deal? Homelander asks, pausing his presentation. The one where you guys are fired, I take your place and become the new 7, after I find 6 more. Ben explains. This gets a gulp out of Ashley and Stillwell, who tried to keep this news from Homelander. What? Homelander wants know. Aren't you the one with super hearing? Edgar asks from his position in the room. Yeah, like how dumb are you? Ben added. I say yes and you lose everything. Now move on. He continues. The sooner you monologue, the sooner I can break out. How does that work? Deep asks, not getting it. Ben drgs out a groan. How many times do I need to say this? Rubs his temples in frustration. I've been captured before, 'cause I'm the only one here with any real experience about being a hero. Leans back with a sigh. Now hurry up, I'd rather break out myself before my friends do it. For the umpteenth time today, Homelander has to control his anger in order to not do something incredibly stupid. He turns to Projector and says. Show him. He orders. The man just nods, then stands next to Homelander and places his hand on his head. The images become clearer and easier to show if you're thinking of it. The man tells Homelander and him close their eyes. Homelander then focuses on his recent memory of seeing Translucent's corpse. Since he couldn't get the body, and they didn't take any photos or recordings for security, this was the next best thing they could do. Projector finds what he's looking for, then opens his eyes then shoot a light like a projector and a video showing him and Maeve examining Translucent's remains. Then the image flickers to him showing Stillwell, and before that Deep coming to him with the news. Reactions differ from the room. For those who have seen it, they avert their eyes to not look at the disgusting image. For those seeing it for the first time are shocked and horrified. Ashley even has to barely hold back some vomit. Starlight gasps in shock. Deep looks away. Stillwell closes her eyes just like A-Train and Maeve. As expected, Stan, Edgar and Black Noir have no reaction. Eventually though, Projector deactivates his powers and his eyes return to normal. Homelander then opens his eyes and forms a smug look on his face. The death of Translucent, likely done behind his back, has to instill some kind of feeling of betrayal. Well, what do you think? Homelander asks. I mean, my first thought was. Raises his eyebrows in mock surprise. Wow, someone actually did this. What's your first thought? He questions with a smirk. Ben scrunches his faces and hums as though he's thinking for a moment. Sandwich. He simply says, baffling everyone. What? Homelander asks. Sandwich. Ben repeats like it was obvious, then seeing that it wasn't clicking he added. 'Cause I can make a really good sandwich with all this baloney. With a smirk. Then the most unexpected thing happened. Stan Edgar, CEO of VOD International, known as a cool and calculated man who never shows any emotion, chuckled. Those who turned to see him, saw that for several moments he struggled to contain his laughter into his fist. After this he composed himself and said, "Apologies, I just found that remark rather humorous." Finally someone with a good sense of humor. Ben says, then turns back to Homelander. "Any other fake deaths you want to tell me about, or is that it?" Homelander just blinks and doesn't reply. "That's what I came up here for." Ben speaks. "I'm actually disappointed." He adds with a fake sad face. Homelander, desperate for answers, then grabs Ben's wrist and pulls him to projector. "Don't hurt him." Stillwell exclaims. "Relax." Homelander dismisses. "He can take it." Turns to projector. "I want all of his memories on that thing now." He orders. "Sir, that's gonna be tricky." Projector tries to explain. "Who knows what I'll find, especially if he's not willing to cooperate, it might just be useless." "I don't care. Do it." Homelander tells him. "Get everything we can, then have the eggheads analyze every piece of SHT we see." Homelander then turns to a silent Ben. "What no dumb line or joke you wanna say?" I actually didn't see this coming." Ben replied, a little nervous. He was more afraid of what they could find on Butcher, Huey and the rest of the team. Maybe even the hideout. Since unless they a dimensional teleporter they can't get to his family. "Now let's see what makes you tick." Homelander says, then gives the signal for Projector to do his stuff. Projector placed his hand on top of Ben's head and started to rifle through his mind. Immediately Ben started to cringe and grunt under the mental strain. He tried desperately to keep him at bay, but it was useless. Inside Ben's memories. Ben inside the portal that brought him. Vilgax and Kevin were latched onto him. Grrrr. Flashback: Diamondhead grunted in pain as he was flying through the portal, as well as Kevin. Vilgax, who was not C, was heard via his roars of pain. What also followed was metal broken up and ripped to pieces. Outside. The members of VOT watched blurred images of Ben's memories of the portal. The reason they were blurry is because he barely remembers the experience himself. Eventually he splits from the two blurred entities he was with and falls out of another portal and crashed into the ground. The form of Diamondhead was in the middle of a crater groaning when the omnitrix timed out and in a flash of red became Ben. "That's smarts." The 10-year-old groaned, while rubbing his head. He wasn't in too much pain, but his body was aching from fighting Vilgax and Kevin. Ben then looked at the watch and saw it was red, indicating it needed to recharge. "Well, looks like I'm back to the basics." He complained. Apparently the recently unlocked MSTR control was either temporary or traveling through the portal somehow messed it up. Seeing as how he wasn't in the null void, Ben assumed he could call Grandpa or Gwen. So taking out Gwen's emergency phone that he borrowed to play a game and forgot to put back, he dialed Grandpa Max's number. However, for some reason that number was not in service. Weird. "Look at that thing, what is it, 2006? A-Train commented, seeing the phone Ben was using. "Those models now only seem to be used by DRG dealers today." Next he tried his home number, but got a Chinese restaurant in Los Angeles instead. He tried his parents' personal phone numbers but got the customer service line for something called Instagram and a Samaritan's Embrace receptionist. This was getting weirder. He finally dialed Aunt Vera from the desert retirement home in a last-ditch effort. "Aunt Vera?" he asked when the line was picked up. "Jeff what? That sounds made up," he told to the person he called. Later Jeff Bozo. Hangs up. He actually talked to Jeff Bezos. Deep commented in surprise. As Ben was about to leave the crater and go figure out where he was, he heard the sound of whooshing twice. Looking around he saw nobody, but then he heard, "For F's sakes, you know I hate that," from an angry woman. It was coming from outside the crater. Without knowing if they were friend or foe, he crept carefully up the crater. Look, let's just get this SHT over with. I gotta do a shoot for my new A trainers in like an hour. And I'm doing it with fine girl and she got a great peach. A man commented. Thanks to the crater and ruble, Ben was able to see they were. One was a dark-skinned man wearing a white and blue uniform with goggles. Another was a woman dressed like some Amazonian warrior/gladiator. The last was a person completely decked out in black from head to toe with Kevlar and knives. Let me guess. The woman continued. You wanna spend all of 2 seconds F. You can spare 5 minutes. With these hands. The man says, holding up a few fingers. A few seconds is all I need. He stated with complete confidence that it borders arrogance. Who are these guys? Ben muttered to himself, but that was a mistake. Just as quickly as he uttered those words in a hushed whisper, the man in black glanced towards his direction. The young hero ducked down and just in time as a knife was thrown at the rubble he was using for cover. As they watched, Wildmutt surprised the 3-7 members sent to investigate. Ben was trying to find out how to stop this. Scene change. Ben was now in the movies to see the first Sumo Slammers movie that he snuck out of school to see when he turned 10. Best day, he got to see the movie, missed a pop quiz and got away with it cause his parents disconnected the phone while setting up a new answering machine. The F is that? Homelander asks, baffled by the sudden image change. Something called Sumo Slammers. Projector answers, while still showing the memory. He's trying to throw us off by thinking of pointless things, and cause it was such a vivid memory with more emotion for him it's easier to overtake. Projector then tries to shift the image, but it's stuck. On Ben watching the Sumo Slammers movie. This memory is strong than him fighting us? Maeve asks, baffled, but this. He's 10, he probably recite lines from this movie better than he can then remember half the Declaration of Independence. Annie points out. Even I can't say half of it. Deep speaks. No SHT. A-Train comments. Try making him think of the watch. Stan pitches. Projector's powers work better when they have a, shall we say, category. He explains. You heard the boss. Homelander said. All memories related to that SHT in his wrist, hopefully his memories will narrow with that. He reiterates. Projector then focuses his powers and soon the image of Sumo Slammers began to blur out. Jrrrrrrr. Ben gritted, trying to keep any. Soon the memory shifts to his first fight with Homelander and Maeve. Ben knows they'll see that he'll come in contact with Butcher for the first time. And maybe to the others. Who knows what they'll find out. He can't let that happen. Suddenly the screen shifts, right as Forearms transforms back into Ben. To the first day of summer. I'm gonna take a walk. Smell you around, Gwen. Ben groaned as he walked into the woods. A short while later. Aw man, this is gonna be the worst vacation ever. I might as well have gone to summer school. What now? Homelander groaned as they saw Ben kicking dirt and moping around like most kids. I thought you were only putting stuff related to the watch. I am, this is his earliest memory. Projector answers. What's that? Annie asks, referring to a meteor or a shooting star. A meteor shoots across the sky and catches Ben's eye. Whoa! A shooting star. Ben says in excitement, but then becomes terrified of the shooting star, instantly changes course, aiming straight for him. Gasping, Ben starts running away. The meteor crashes behind him, the shockwave launching Ben and sending smoke and debris in the air. As it clears, Ben looks on at it, getting to his feet for a closer look. That was close. A-Train points out, seeing Ben just barely avoid being killed. Not close enough. Homelander says to himself, though some do hear it. Looks like a satellite or something. Ben comments as he gets a better look. The meteor's white-hot light fades. Ben leans in at the edge of the crater, but the ground he's standing on crumbles beneath him, sending him sliding down. Ben gets up, he now has a full view of the pod. It opens itself before him, and a green light in the shape of an hourglass shines from it. Light extends from the hourglass, revealing it is attached to a cylindrical watch-like device. A watch. Ben says, baffled by the discovery. What's a watching doing in outer space? Ben smiles to himself, stepping closer to the pod, outstretching his arm to grab it. As he does, the object leaps from the pod and onto his wrist, latching itself to Ben. Ah! Get off me! Get off, get off! Ben shouts in terror while trying frantically to rip the omnitrix off his wrist, to the point of losing balance and falling over. He quickly climbs out of the crater and starts running. Grandpa! He calls out. A short while later, Ben tries to pry the omnitrix apart from his wrist with a stick, but the stick breaks, angering him. He falls to his knees in defeat, and starts fumbling with the device. He accidentally hits a button on it and its faceplate springs up. Whoa! He says before glancing around the woods. The faceplate's hourglass morphs into a diamond encasing a black silhouette. Cool. It's been like 30 seconds and he went from terrified to excited. Maeve says, baffled by his reaction. Ben looks down at the faceplate, and his eyebrows raise before pressing it back down. Ben suddenly finds himself in a void, crimson rock spreading across his skin, transforming him into something else. He emerges from the void, now a burning rock alien. Aw! He shouts as he scans himself. I'm on fire! I'm on fire! He screams as he runs around. This causes several of the audience to chuckle in amusement. Soon Ben, as heat blast, begins to calm down. Hey, I'm on fire, and I'm okay, he says while going over his new body. Check it out. I'm totally hot. He says and snickers at his own joke. Ben turns to see a tree behind him that he can practice his new abilities on. Oh yeah, Here goes. Slinging his wrist, Ben shoots a fireball out of his pointer finger, blowing a branch off the tree entirely. That's what I'm talking about. He says, pleased at the results. Between his hands, Ben creates a larger fireball. Liking it. Ben slings the fireball, unexpectedly through 3 trees instead of 1, causing a fog of smoke around him. Ben's smile drops as he sees a fire created by him spreading to other trees. Wait. Stop. Oh. Ben runs to the fire, and tries stomping out a flame with his fiery feet, only for it to erupt into a larger one. Oh man, I am gonna get so busted for this. He says in fear. It feels like I'm watching cartoon. A-Train comments. Ben is continuing trying to put out the fire, unsuccessfully. This would be so cool, if it weren't so not cool. He says to himself as he resumes his efforts, but then feels something hit his back. Turning around he sees Gwen, who screams. Look, I know I look weird, but there's no reason to be scared. Gwen clobbers Heat Blast round the head with the extinguisher, knocking him down. When he tries to get up, Gwen sprays him, knocking out the flames surrounding his rock-like head for a brief moment. Ben coughs and says. Hey. Oh, that's gotta hurt. Deep comments. I don't know what you are, but you'll stay down there if you know what's good for you. Gwen says, aiming the fire extinguisher. Ben, staying down, gestures to Gwen's shoe, setting a small flame on it with a chuckle as Gwen begins to hop on one foot for a moment before putting it out. Once she does, she raises the fire extinguisher for another swing. I warned you. Wow. Annie says, impressed by her fearlessness. It was a little girl staring face to face with an alien rock monster and was not paralyzed with fear. At least not for long. Don't even think about it, freak. Heat Blast tells her. Suddenly she becomes less hostile and more confused. Ben, is that you? What happened? She asks, not understanding how he turned into this fire being. Well, when I was walking, This meteor fell from the sky and almost smudged me, except that wasn't a meteor or a satellite, but this cool watch thing that jumped up onto my wrist, and when I tried to get it off, I suddenly was on fire, only it didn't hurt when I was accidentally starting this mega forest fire. Heat Blast quickly explains just as Grandpa Max runs up to them. Gwen, are you ALRI? Stops himself upon seeing Hestblast. What in blazes? Who wears a shirt like that anymore? A-Train asks, seeing Max's iconic Hawaiian shirt. Really, that's your question? Maeve replies, not believing he was more surprised by an old man's sense of style than everything else. Hey, Grandpa, guess who? Gwen says, gesturing to Hear Blast. Waving Ben replies. It's me, Grandpa. Which seems to be enough to convince Max that it's his grandson. Ben. What happened to you? Max questions, not believing what he was seeing. But as Ben starts to repeat himself, Gwen cuts him off. Excuse me. Major forest fire burning out of control, remember? She reminds them. What do we do? Heat Blast asks, panicking. After a second or two of thinking, Max answers. Backfire. Start a new fire and let it burn into the old fire. They'll snuff each other out. Think you can do it, Ben? Hestblast smirks and replies. Shooting flames? That I can definitely do. He says, more confident now that they have a plan. All three run out. Ben finds trees some distance away, then shoots them with a blast of fire, causing a new blaze. Eventually, as Max predicted, it snuffs out the old fire. Smart man. Edgar commented for the first time. Later, Heat Blast joins up with his cousin and Grandpa to explain how this happened. And you say that this watch just jumped up and clamped onto your wrist? Gwen tosses a marshmallow to Heat Blast, who catches it. Hey, this time it wasn't my fault. He puts the marshmallow in his mouth. I swear. I believe you, Ben. Max assures him. Think he's gonna stay a monster forever? Gwen asks. He's not a monster, he's an alien. Max says with the utmost certainty. Heat Blast and Gwen stare at him inquisitively. I mean, look at him. What else could he be? Weird guy. Homelander says. He lived during the space race, UFO sightings, and the original Star Wars and Star Trek. Edgar informs. How do you know that? Stillwell questions. But Edgar doesn't answer and they continue watching the show. Yeah, I don't want to be fire guy forever. How am I supposed to play Little League this fall if I charcoal the ball every time I catch a pop fly? Heat Blast complains. Don't worry, Ben, we'll figure this thing out. Max assures him. Just then the omnitrix on Heat Blast's chest beeps red several times, before letting out a blinding red light towards Max and Gwen. When they open their eyes, Ben is standing in front of them, human and all. Ha! I'm me again. Ben says, elated as he examined himself. Ah, too bad. I liked you better when you were a briquette. Gwen whined. It has a time limit. Homelander says with confusion. No way, he was that techno bubble thing way longer than, like what, 10 maybe 15 minutes. The Deep pointed out. Upgrade. Edgar corrected them. He calls that one upgrade. And Deep is right, he must have unlocked some new control of some sort since then. He adds. They resume watching the memories and see Ben turn into Wildmutt and fight those robot drones. Okay, that's freaky. Starlight comments. Soon they see him turn into Diamondhead and fight a much larger robot. Record all of this. Stillwell tells Ashley, who follows the order. Come on, put one in here. Diamondhead dares the giant robot, pointing to his own chest. The robot fires the laser and Diamondhead holds his palms up and stands his ground. Eventually the laser and reflected back at the robot. Try this, you techno freak. He says before the robot explodes. Scenes then shifts to his adventures during the summer. Dealing with Onimo at Washington, D.C. Okay, that's messed up. A-Train says as Ben deals with the mutated pets and resurrected beasts created by a scientist obsessed with some award. The giant animals or the guy who made them? Maeve asked. Both. Was the answer. Scene then goes to him dealing with the Kraken and the fish hunters. Oh, we can do something like this for my next movie. Deep suggests, and for once Stillwell agrees, seeing the three-way fight for the eggs. Scene then goes Ben and his family going to his Aunt Vera and dealing with the aliens who eat the elderly. Aliens who abduct old people to eat them. Maeve states. Is this kid F real? Scene goes to when Ben had to fight off alien bounty hunters. Of course it doesn't. Tetrax said after Ben told him the omnitrix doesn't come off, his face covered by his mask. Its power utilizes alien DNA, which binds to the host's own genetic structure. It cannot simply be removed like taking off a hat, he explains. Edgar then speaks. Another reason I shot down your ideas about cutting that thing off. Something that advanced has to have security features to prevent just any random individual from using it. He explains, since he personally ordered any and all personnel to not touch the watch. Especially after what happened with Nova Blast. Diamondhead sneakily readies a blade and rushes to attack him. Your choice of warriors is based solely on brute strength, without regard for any strategy. Do you ever pause to consider your actions at all? Tetrax says, while easily blocking all of Ben's attacks. They soon see Ben turn into gray matter and defeat the bounty hunters using his mind instead of his muscle to win. He's a quickly learner. Edgar states, impressed then turns to Homelander. Unlike others. The scene then shifts to when they visited Sparksville and they had to tackle the megawatt. During which people turned when they heard Blackmore chuckle at several hilarious moments. The scene then goes to when he met and later fought Kevin. What's with kids getting these crazy powers and then just knowing how to use them? It took me forever to learn how to not close a door without breaking a knob and they figure their SHT out in 2 seconds. Maeve says with frustration as she sees Ben and Kevin seemingly in control of their powers. Only exception is with Ben getting the wrong hero from time to time. They soon see Kevin get knocked around by forearms during a seemingly one-sided fight. Then as he tried to take the Omnitrix he gets blown away and seemingly loses his powers. How did he turn into that thing then? Homelander questions. We might find out soon. Maeve guesses. Scene then shifts to when Ben fought Rojo who absorbed one of the down drones as several aliens. More importantly they observed his guilt over his grandpa Max getting hurt. Poor kid. Annie says with sympathy. As they see Ben defeat her as Upgrade they see his first meeting with Vilgax. That's the thing, what I've been telling you about. Deep says, with a slight panic in his tone. What are you referring to? Edgar asks, intrigued. Well, a while back some friends of mine Deep tried to explain. Some dumb fish saw a bigger fish and Deep keeps panicking. Homelander dismisses. Nothing to worry about, I got it covered. He assures going back to viewing the memories. I'm sure you do. Edgar relies with no confidence. But also with no worry. He then crosses his arms briefly before feeling something in his chest pocket. It's a letter. Opening it he reads it, but then closes it within seconds, and either nobody noticed or nobody cared. The memory then shifts to when Ben had to fight Zomboso and his circus freaks. Don't we have those guys in our own circus? Homelander questions as he watches Ben, as Upgrade, merge with a baseball launcher as the circus freaks wreck some crates they thought he was hiding behind. You wanna play hardball? Game on. Upgrade rapidly spits baseballs at Thumbskull, knocking him out. He starts shooting at Frightwig, whose hair deflects it back at him, forcing him to hide behind a box. That all you got? She asks. Just warming up, lady. Upgrade says, before popping his head up and spitting some ball at her hair. While she deflects it, Upgrade spits 2 carefully aimed balls at her feet. She dodges one, but the other trips her up, making her spin in the air, her hair completely tying her body up. He spits one more at her face to knock her out. Acid Breath jumps up on the highest box and spits all around him at Upgrade. Upgrade flees behind Acid Breath's box. Didn't your mom ever tell you it's not polite to spit? Ben taunts, getting his attention. Who do you think taught me in the first place? Acid Breath replied. But as he readies another spit, Upgrade leaps in the air and perfectly shoots a ball into Acid Breath's mouth. Acid Breath's mouth is full, and therefore can't block the onslaught of ball Upgrade shoots at him. He is down. Soon Ben goes inside Zomboso's tent and the VOT members witness what he went through. Okay, that SHT is terrifying. A-Train speaks what everyone is thinking as they see Zomboso take the form of several jack-in-the-boxes and even a spider. Ben finds himself on the center floor of the main tent, back in reality. As he starts to get up, the genuine Zomboso calmly walks up to him. Ben sees ghosts reflected in the orbs on Zomboso's body, flying up to the large one on his top hat. Inside is Gwen, backlit by fire, laughing herself to death. Now don't tell me you're afraid of old Zomboso. The clown asks. Ben backs away and sits on his knees. What do you want? He asks with fear. Zomboso snaps his fingers and a spotlight lights up the large machine in the tent. It is filled with screaming ghosts. The cable running out of the machine psionically links to Zomboso's back, lifting him in the air. Only what every clown worth his floppy shoes wants, to make people laugh. He then grotesquely slobbers. Then drain their positive energy, like a sponge in a pool party. Is that so wrong? Is that the machine you use to suck the happiness out of your audience? The 10-year-old hero asks. I call it the Cyclown. Zomboso answers, proud of his creation. Clever, eh? Soon I'll be taking my act to the big cities. Millions of people laughing for me. Feeding me, making me stronger. He explains while feeling the power course through his body. Ben lifts his head, mustering up some courage. I want my cousin back. He demands. Zomboso gasps. Cousin? Didn't you hear? She ran away with the circus. He tells her, showing him Gwen. She is lying on the floor off to the side, her body drained and frail, still coughing up a few faint laughs. Ben looks at her in shock, then at Zomboso in anger. He stands up and turns on the omnitrix. Oh my God! Annie gasps, seeing the state Gwen was in. Zomboso starts laughing, but Ben cuts him off, angry at seeing the state of his cousin. Oh, you're funny. He begins as he dials up an alien. But I'm gonna get the last laugh. He slams down on the dial, turning into Ghost Freak. I know that guy now. A-Train exclaims. He's the one who attacked me and Noir at that house. Remember? He turns to Noir, who nods. That ghost thing. Homelander chuckles. Didn't it lose to that robot crab thing earlier? He reminds them, during the memory of the alien bounty hunters. There is no greater danger than underestimating your opponent. Edgar said, quoting the philosopher Lao Tzu. Nice try, kid. But I sell the tricks, I don't buy them. Zomboso dismisses, while crossing his arms. I just figured out, there's something I'm even more afraid of than you, Ghost Freak says, as he moves his eye through the cracks of his ghostly form. Ghost Freak then punches Zomboso in the face, briefly tangling him up in his machine's cable. Ghost Freak keeps talking, however, somewhere in the tent, invisible. Losing my family to some goofball emotional vampire. In other words, he says as Zomboso tries to find him. Ghost Freak then appears behind Zomboso and punches him square in the nose. The nose honks in slow motion as a fist print is now visible on his nose. You're going down, clown. He adds. Zomboso is now angry. He looks around. A wooden board suddenly comes careening towards him, smacking him into his machine and causing the blue nodes to spark and explode. Souls come flying out of the machine, one of them flies into Gwen, the rest release in a wave across the sky, returning all the drooling townspeople outside back to normal. Zomboso gets up, and in a breaking voice says, "I'm warning you to back off." He meekly threatens as Ghost Freak appears before him. "You wanna see something really scary?" Ghost Freak asks before grabbing the two folds on his chest and ripping them open, exposing Zomboso to a horrifying sight. Zomboso's own cable jerks him backward in fear. He falls to the ground and panickingly backs up. "Oh, now don't tell me you're afraid of old Ghost Freak." Ben taunts, getting closer to the clown. "Please no more." A tearful Zomboso begs, as he cowers in fear. "Boo!" Ghost Freak says, then Zomboso's head suddenly expands like a balloon and his entire body explodes into confetti. Ghost Freak looks at his hands. "Whoa! That kind of even freaked me out," he says, both impressed and scared at what just transpired. "Okay, now I get why this kid isn't afraid or impressed by any of us," Maeve says. "I honestly wouldn't give a SHT after seeing this," Maeve admits. "Yeah, same." Deep agreed. Noir nodded in agreement as they all continued to watch the memories. Scene cut. Butcher is whistling as he walks down the long hall to get to Kevin's cell. There was no turning back now. That was actually more appropriate for when he hooked up the bombs at the Rayner household. But even if everything goes right, Butcher will be on the CIA's most wanted list. At a minimum. After leaving Susan's house he headed for the scrapyard she told him and knocked out the front agent posing as a security guard, in a blind spot of the cameras. Then after using Susan's ID card he headed inside and threw several smoke grenades right away to give himself cover. As soon as he got to Kevin's first door he jammed it after going in. Great thing about reinforced metal doors designed to withstand nuke attacks, they become incredibly hard to open when they're closed and locked. Butcher eventually gets to another door and unlocks it. Opening it he sees Kevin, or Chimera as the most of the world knows him, behind 3 giant walls of reinforced glass, chained to his cell with a steady stream of red gas coming from the vents. "Hello, sunshine." Butcher greets with a smile. Kevin turns around and sees someone new for the first time in a while. "Who are you supposed to be?" he asks. Butcher replies, "I'm the one who's gonna get you out of this SHT hole. Unless you'd rather stay here." Kevin narrowed his eyes. "What's the catch?" he questions, knowing that Butcher wouldn't just do it out of the kindness of his heart. "Aren't we clever?" Butcher tells him. "I've got a problem, you agree to take care of this problem in a very violent fashion, and I let you out. This problem got a name?" Kevin wonders. "A right CNT called Homelander." The Brit answers. Kevin just blinked. "What's a CNT?" Butcher sighed. "For F's sake. The arsehole in the cape you beat the SHT out of before," he informs. Kevin then finally recalls his fight with Homelander and the 7 from before. "That loser? Ha! I could waste that guy in my sleep." Butcher then looks through the small window on the door and sees they're cutting a hole through the first door. "Well, we've got about 30 seconds before the CIA burst in here and put you down for some more shut-eye. So, do we have a deal?" Kevin thinks for a moment then says. "Deal." Butcher shuts off the machines pumping DRGS into Kevin and he regains his strength to break free. But an alarm blares off. "Well, we best be going now," Butcher says as he unlocks the doors leading into Kevin's cell. Kevin laughs at this. "Ha! What's this wheat stuff?" he asks while igniting a fireball in his heat blast arm. Butcher gasps at this, in faux shock. "Oh dear. F me, I wasn't expecting this. You can go free. But I got something else you want. A runt with a special watch. Tennyson." Kevin growls in anger. I know his exact location. Which I'll gladly divulge, after you hold up end. Ha! Kevin laughs. You think I need help finding that? Little twerp. I can just draw him out. And look how well that worked out last time. My way, you can take him by surprise. The Brit points out. Kevin shifts his diamond head arm into a blade. Maybe I just make you tell me. He threatens. I just broke into AF secret CIA compound. Butcher reminds him in a firm tone, torture away, but I guarantee, without me, you're gonna end up right back in that box, only this time, nobody is gonna mad enough to break you out. Kevin grit his teeth before blasting a hole in the ceiling and grabbed Butcher and broke out of the compound. Using bursts of XLR-8 speed he launched himself into the air and was flying away before the CIA could react. And when they came in all they saw was Raynor's badge. Vought. At Vought Tower, specifically in the 7 conference room, Ben's memories were on display. They had just finished watching when he was grey matter for an extended PRD of time and the Forever Nights. Now they were watching him while fighting Clancy, the bug villain, while sick. Oh, that's disgusting. Maeve said, voicing everyone's thoughts as she saw Clancy cover himself with cockroaches at the nuclear power plant. However, just as a new memory was beginning, the image began to blur and distort. Like when an older television lost signal. What's going on? Homelander wanted to know. Yes, something tells me we were on the verge of discovering something. Edgar chimed in. He's resisting. Projector simply explained, as he tried to get the connection back, and while they don't get an image they get a voice. You hold the key to a power struggle so ancient, so vast, it is beyond your feeble comprehension. Picture an entire army, each in command of an omnitrix and all at my command. Said the voice of Vilgax, that nobody but Ben could recognize. Get out of my head. Ben gritted through his teeth while grabbing his head with both hands as he tried to resist Projector poking in too much. But Projector wasn't having it and tried to dig deeper and see something. All the while a green light starts shining through the narrow openings of the cuff. Flashback. Vilgax then attempts to remove the Omnitrix from Ben's wrist, but it emits a feedback which pushes Vilgax against a building. Flashback over. What happens in Ben's head, and in the past, suddenly transpires in real life. A green pulse shoots from Ben's wrist, breaking the cuff that prevented his access to the Omnitrix. This sends Projector flying and hitting the window, which doesn't even crack, and then falling to the floor unconscious. The other members of the 7 as well as the regular employees duck, including Edgar. As soon as it's over, Ben recovers and is trying to dial a new alien. Hero time. He says as he turns the dial to an alien he hasn't used since before he landed in this dimension. Homelander sees this and rises up. Go ahead, I know all your little aliens and their tricks. He says, pointing that he's confronted several of them and saw him use those aliens in the memories. Not all of them. Ben says with a smirk, then pushes the dial down. In a green flash Ben became a hulking, broad-shouldered alien covered in natural, yellow armor plating on his back, shoulders, and the backs of his arms. He is mostly white with black on his upper half and has 4 claws on both of his hands, having a color scheme and claws similar to that of a panda. An alien that Homelander and the rest of this world have yet to see in action. Meet Cannonbolt. The Arburian Pellerota introduced himself. I think it's about time you get acquainted. Cannonbolt rolled up and launched himself at Homelander, who quickly ducked. But Ben bounced off the wall and hit him in the back, sending him to the window overlooking the city. The window was reinforced so it withstood the hit, though it did crack. But Cannonbolt didn't stop there. After hitting Homelander to the window he bounced back to the wall and hit him several more times. Each hit cracking the glass even further. On the 5th or 6th time the glass broke, resulting in the 2 crashing onto the concrete below, just in front of the entrance. Before the dust cleared, Cannonbolt jumped out of the crater he made with Homelander and unrolled himself into a standing position. Looking back up to where he broke out he smiled. I'm actually little disappointed I didn't get to crash through the building. He says, remembering the multitude of times he said he was likely going to destroy, at least, part of Vought Tower. Let's fix that. The voice of Homelander said, before quickly flying out of the crater and punch cannonbolts back. This sends the alien crashing into the front steps where several people are quickly leaving, hoping to get out of any possible crossfire. Cannonbolt rises back up and runs his head. It's dark out. He says, realizing it's night. Yup, so lights out, you yellow F armadillo. Homelander tells him as he flies up and fires his heat vision. Cannonbolt reacts quickly and uses the armor plating on his left arm to deflect the beam away. Homelander tries again and Cannonbolt does the same thing with his right arm. Not giving up, Homelander tried again and Ben lifted both his armored arms to block and the lasers deflected right back to its sender. But catcha! Cannonbolt said as the beams hit Homelander. You lucky SHT. Homelander said before flying at Cannonbolt. The Arburian Pelorota quickly curled up in a ball just before Homelander punched his shell into the ground. Cannonbolt's form was pushed down so he was half buried in rubble. But as Homelander went in for a second punch, Cannonbolt started rolling in reverse, which churned up the ground and shot pieces of rock at Homelander at the pace of a machine gun. As Homelander was being jerked back, Cannonbolt shot out and bounced off the side of the building, before bouncing off a car, then off of the statue of Soldier Boy before hitting Homelander square on. This caused the soup to be thrown inside a Vought with such force he made a small crater where the Vought logo would be above the service desk. The lobby was thankfully empty, since Edgar had taken to ordering all employees to heed Ben's warnings. Though there were still a few personnel he couldn't just have leave in the middle of the day. But as far as board members and sales reps for sports drinks, and such, they went home. As Homelander pulled himself out, his hair was disheveled and he was covered in dust and plaster. Coughing, he sees Cannonbolt roll in, who stayed in ball form before saying, "Guess you can't roll with the punches." He quips. Homelander growls at that, clearly annoyed. Are you mad?" Cannonbolt sarcastically asks. "I thought we were having a ball." "Ha." He adds, laughing at his own joke. F what Edgar says. "You die today." Homelander swears as he floats up with his eyes glowing red. "Bring it, homie." Cannonbolt tells him and starts to roll in place. After a few seconds the two move, Homelander flying down and Cannonbolt shooting up, for an attack. Upstairs. A loud thunderous crash is heard and the building shakes a little. "Are they for real?" Deep asks with urgency, thinking it's crazy for them to fight in the tower so soon after the earlier fight, which was only several hours old. Another crash. "We have to stop them." Annie speaks like it's obvious. "No." Edgar says as he looks at his phone. Everyone turns to the CEO in shock. "What do you mean no?" Stillwell asks in a panic, gestures to the ground. "We have the two strongest beings fighting below us, the tower could come down if we don't." "Stop." "Yeah, why shouldn't we go help Homelander kick the kid's ass?" A-Train wants to know. "He's a kid and you still want to kick his ass?" Maeve asks, seeing offense to that. Thunderous crash followed by an explosion. Chimera is back and he's joined in for round 2. Edgar says, showing security footage of the lobby and playing it back to show Kevin bursting through a wall. "You do not want to get in the middle of that," he says before calmly walking away. "We should probably get off this floor though." Downstairs. Cannonbolt is bouncing off the walls to hit Homelander from multiple directions to keep him off balance and hopefully wear down his stamina. However, Homelander soon saw that there was a pattern and turned his body so he was facing Cannonbolt's next attack. Instead of hitting it, he decided to catch it, so just before it was gonna hit him he clamped his arms to the sides of the spherical alien. Homelander gritted his teeth as Cannonbolt kept spinning so fast that smoke was rising from Homelander's palms from the friction. When he stopped spinning, the 7-liter threw him to the ground. But before he could go in for his next hit. Crash. Kevin bursts through a wall and pushes Homelander into a wall, and holds him with his lower Wildmutt arms and his Heatleblast arm. How the F did you get out? Homelander wanted to know, knowing Butcher and his pals were wanted so the CIA wouldn't just let this guy out without a plan. Let's just say someone really hates your guts. Kevin stated as he reeled back his diamond head arm readied with a blade. But before he could move it, Cannon Bolt hit him in the side, knocking him off and allowing Homelander to get some distance. They all recovered and landed in a sort of triangle formation. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 12. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author AUFan62 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.